Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Caitlin, a good morning to you. How are you today?
Good morning. I have transitioned with the warmer weather from my usual hot tea in the morning to my iced tea. So I think we're into spring and summer now.
And you literally did it overnight, right? Like it was like one day you woke up and you're like, oh, so today's August 15th. I guess I didn't get the memo that we were transitioning this fast, right?
I mean, that 90 degrees, wasn't ready for that.
No, nobody was. Nobody was. But I'll tell you who was ready for, not ready for it, but I'm glad it's here. That's me. I'm ready. Like, I grill all times of the year, Caitlin. I think we talk about this a lot. Like, especially in the winter, I enjoy going out in the freezing cold and firing up the grill. But like, especially the summertime, spring and summer, just, sit out on the deck, let the grill get hot, throw some food on it, let it cook, and just enjoy the smells and the outdoors and all that good stuff. Like, this is my time of year. Perfect. To be perfectly honest. So.
Then I'm glad it's here for you. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, well, let's talk grilling and grilling safety, Caitlin, because we've got big holidays coming up. Like, of course, next weekend is Memorial Day weekend. We've got graduations on the horizon. I'm sure some folks are going to be hosting parties and making, firing up the grill for their guests and family and those sorts of things. We've got 4th of July. That's going to bring out a lot of course, folks to the barbecue, and it's just the summertime in general. So we're going to be firing that grill up. Let's talk safety when it comes to grilling, when it comes to the preparation of our food. What do you have for us today, Caitlin?
Yeah, so anytime that we're going to be cooking outdoors, so whether that's grilling, you're going to be taking foods on a picnic, you're going to go hang out with friends or family on the lake, on the boat, you're going to want to think about, how am I going to keep foods that are more risky? How am I going to keep those foods safe? And the challenge especially is you may not have easy access to a sink. So it may be hard to wash your hands. It may be hard to wash fruits and vegetables before you get in. So you're going to probably have to do a little bit of logistics and planning before you even, get out the door. So if you are doing something outdoors that's close to home, you're going to have easier access to things like that sink. So the 4 big things that we talked about with food safety are going to be hand washing. So it's this, oh gosh, it's a Monday. It's a Monday. My brain just got fried.
It is. Hand washing, surface cleaning comes to mind for me, making sure that, that surface I'm preparing food on is clean.
Yeah, so the cleaning. So the magic of an interview is I can pull up my fancy skills and go, okay, well, this is what I need. So for cleaning, so hand washing is that number 1 step for food safety. So especially when you're changing tasks. So if you're preparing your meat for the grill and then you're going to go work on some potato salad and some coleslaw, making sure that between all those tasks, you are washing hands. And then, yes, just as you mentioned, all of the surface equipment. So especially if you're going to go outside, you have to touch a door handle on your way out there, make sure wherever your hands recently touched. So if they touched raw meat and then you're going to go try to open the door, can you have somebody else open the door for you? Are you able to maybe use your elbow or your hip to try and push the door open? So yeah, the surfaces are going to be important. So all of your utensils, your cutting boards, we're going to make sure that those things are separated. So if you are preparing, you're maybe rubbing on dry rub for your steaks, and then that's going to be in one separate area. And you're going to be cutting up maybe vegetables like bell peppers and onions for kebabs on the grill, having those cut on a separate cutting board with separate knives. And again, you're changing tasks, right? So when you're going from working with the raw meat and rubbing that rub into the steak and then moving on to your vegetables, we need to wash hands in between that step. We're also going to make sure that we are cooking to proper temperatures. So this is where a food thermometer comes in really handy. If you're able, having even some of the fancier thermometers that send messages to your app and you can leave the probes inside the meat, those are really fun. You don't have to have those for sure, but they are nice if you're wanting to step away a little bit and not have to check on your meat as much. But definitely pulling out that food thermometer. USDA has a whole list of internal cooking temperatures for different varieties of meat. So beef is going to be a little bit different than chicken, for example. And then the last piece is refrigerating any leftovers, or making sure that any leftovers that you have get stored quickly. So if it's going to be 90 degrees outside and you're doing all this food prep, Anything that you want to have as leftovers needs to go back in that fridge within an hour, just because the temperature is so hot. Under 90 degrees, we can give you up to 2 hours, but really the faster you put your foods back into cold storage, so maybe that is in a cooler with some ice, or if you're close to home and you have an actual refrigerator, move those things back into your fridge within 2 hours. Unless it's really, really hot outside, then make it an hour.
Sure. Again, Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator with the University of Illinois Extension, our guest on the phone here for this morning as we talk summer food safety. So, Caitlin, we've got the preparing and the prepared foods down. How about when we start firing up that grill and we're working with foods like sometimes I'll cook with chicken and beef in the same meal, or pork and beef, or pork and chicken, or whatever the case may be. I know you and I have talked in the past. You don't necessarily want those foods on the grill at the same time. Why is that? What do we need to be conscious of as we're dealing with different varieties of meats in our cookouts?
Yeah, so the challenge with cooking multiple different types of meats on the same grill is that, one, they cook to different temperatures. And so usually poultry is I shouldn't say usually, poultry is the meat product that we cook to the highest temperature. So it's 165 Fahrenheit with a food thermometer. Things like steak, we really only need to cook for food safety purposes to an internal temperature of 145. So there's that 20-degree Fahrenheit difference between those two. And if any of the chicken juices were to splash onto the steak that you're cooking, we may contaminate the chicken juices, with that steak. And the challenge, though, is that because we're not cooking that steak to as high of a temperature, we may not be killing off the microbes that are found in those chicken juices, because we're not cooking that steak to as high of a temperature. So we do risk a little bit of cross-contamination. So one thing that can be really helpful is if you have the option to do, one meat for that particular meal, of course, that's a great way to just kind of eliminate the risk. But if you're not going to do that, you may want to invest in that kind of not invest. You may want to do just that separate cooking. So maybe you're going to work on the chicken first. So once you get that chicken mostly, getting closer to being cooked, you maybe flipped it on a couple sides, and maybe using that cooking time, right? So it's cooked on one side, you flip it to the other, you cook it for a little bit. We're pretty much eliminating that risk because we've sealed the outside, so to speak. And so we can then add our steak or our pork chops, and we're eliminating that risk or lowering that risk quite a bit. Another one would just be to invoke lots of foil and plates and, wrapping things to keep it warm. Some grills have a warmer section, so you can move your cooked meats to that warming tray so they can just kind of hang out while you're cooking the rest of your meats. Lots of different variations that you can do. But yes, definitely it is a challenge. And so it's good that we brought it up this morning.
Sure, for sure. Well, Caitlin, I look at the clock. We're nearing needing a break here for the day. But before we do that, did I miss anything on food preparation, cleanliness, grilling safety, particularly for, like we just talked about, mixing those meats, or anything that comes to mind there? Did we miss anything you want to make sure we know along those lines today?
So having got a new shed recently, I want to remind people that if you've not been using your grill on a regular basis, this is a good time of year to clean it up. So pull off the cobwebs, get the grates nice and clean, pull it out of storage, get it ready for the season. So don't just pull it out of storage and think it's ready to go. You're going to want to do some cleaning on it.
Sure. Very good. So keep all those things in mind. Caitlin, do you do much blogging, or are there many resources available through Extension that folks can check in on with this topic? How about that?
So we have a very old meat safety website. So we are in the process of updating that. So all the information is still okay, but it's just a very old looking website. So, excuse the fact that it's kind of, early 2000s looking, but it's meat. If you want to just search Illinois Extension and meat safety, it'll pop up that website. So it has all that. We also have our grilling page, so you can do that as well. You can look up, it's a part of that meat safety for our Oh gosh, it's definitely Monday over here. Part of the meat safety website is the grilling resource, so you have those. But yeah, just know that the website looks kind of old, but all the information's still good.
Hey, still good as long as the information's accurate. That's what we're looking for. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension, my guest on the phone for this morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. More to come on the morning show.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday. I'm Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network. Corn, beans, and wheat all opening the day double-digit higher. July corn 797.5 up 16.25. September corn up 13.5, 771, and December new crop 760.75 up 12. July beans starting the day 1661.25 up 14.75. August beans up 15, 1610.5. November new crop 1511.75 up 13.5. July wheat 1235.25 up 57.75. September wheat up 54.25, 1235.25, and December wheat up 51.25. Start the day 1236.25. July bean meal, $414.60 up 5.30, and July bean oil, $84.24 up 45 cents. So look at the opening numbers for this Monday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
Having a hard time finding the correct new car, truck, SUV, or crossover to fit your needs? This is Scott Baum from Bob Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. Some lots look low on inventory, so go to our website, look at our pre-order and reserve tab. You'll see inventory in transit, which are built and on their way to Clinton, and in production, new Chevys and Buicks, which are being built and will arrive soon. Or you can always call our sales team. They can help you find the correct one just for you. BombChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
This is Marian Broussard, Director of the Clinton Chamber of Commerce. The Business Expo is back for 2022. Mark your calendars now for Thursday, March 24th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Clinton High School. Booths will be set up in the gym with exhibitors outside by the main school entrance. The free shred truck is back, along with the Chamber's Business of the Year awards, face painting, pickleball showcase, gas card raffle, and Two Hill Seed and Beef meat raffle, plus so much more. Join us at the Clinton Chamber's Business Expo at Clinton High School on Thursday, March 24th.
This is The Morning Show on 92.3 FM in DeWitt County, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence, and my guest on the phone this morning, Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension, our guest. And Caitlin, let's talk a little bit. I was chatting with our farm broadcaster out in the lobby this weekend. I helped a friend put a garden in, put an herb garden in my backyard as well. So really looking forward to this gardening season. And as those, vegetables, we've got jalapenos, tomatoes, green beans. We've got some lettuces and all those things. As those things start to come up, we're probably going to have more than we can consume in a given, probably time frame. So how do we preserve, say, some of these things? What are some practices that we can take on and make sure that produce lasts for a good while?
Yeah, and this is such a very, timely topic, right? We have people that are getting their gardens ready. I know I was driving by some corn and bean fields this morning, and I'm just starting to see little shoots pop up. So, we're finally getting into the growing season. And so the preserving topics that Extension can assist you with are on canning, so both pressure canning and water bath canning, and drying or dehydration, freezing, and then fermenting. And so those are the four things that we tend to talk about with preserving. So even some things, you talked about an herb garden. So we don't really can necessarily with herbs because they're going to turn to mush, but we can dry those really nicely. We can add those to oil and freeze them. So you can have those popped out in, to saute your chicken or whatever and have the herbs already built in. We can, with those jalapenos, we could freeze those. I know I do that quite a bit because I have a tiny kitchen. So canning is not really an easy task in my home kitchen, but freezing is really convenient for me. So I'll freeze jalapeno that's been cut up, and we can do, pickling, all sorts of different things. And so I actually have a couple of classes coming up in July. So I'll talk more about those next month, but just know that those are going to be coming up. They're basic 101 classes. So if you have, interest in maybe dipping your toe into different types of preserving, but you need a little bit of help getting started, those are going to be there for you. But if you want to do some reading and checking out before then, I recommend going to the University of Georgia, actually, and checking out the National Center for Home Food Preservation.
Mm-hmm.
They host that website, and the book So Easy to Preserve is part of that kind of package of information. They're all tested recipes. They've been updated. And especially if you're going to be doing anything with pressure canning, I do test the dial gauge style canners just to make sure that the needle on the gauge is reading correctly. So that's a service that I provide for free around this any time of year, but I know I get an uptick in requests for that this time of year as people are starting to get their canners out of storage and get their jars cleaned up and ready to go. So lots of things that we can do to preserve, and not just from your home garden, but if you go to farmers markets or even just things you buy in a grocery store, you can certainly preserve those as well.
Very good. Yeah. And a lot of that, actually, I'm kind of, I think I'd like to dip my toe into some of those things that you're talking about, Caitlin. So I'll look forward to hearing more about those programs and finding resources on how to do that. And I would venture a guess, probably canning and freezing of those 4 options you gave us on how to best, utilize and make the best of the stuff that's coming out of our gardens this year. I would say canning and freezing, probably the most popular. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and dehydration is definitely getting, I think, a little bit more popular. You can successfully dry, even things like herbs, you can very gently dry them in the microwave even, so you don't always need extra equipment, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Even like things like hot peppers, you can string those up and dry them at room temperature. And I know I've done a blog a couple years ago on turning hot chili peppers dried, and then you run them through your food processor so you can make chili flakes. So you get that like additional added bonus, right? You don't just have the dried chilies, but you can now have a pizza topping to shake on your pizza.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. So a lot of good resources for sure. Caitlin, one thing that you mentioned just a moment ago, though, just as we're, getting the gardens going and all of those things, of course, is just being outside more and all of that. Any quick recipes or anything that you're going to try out this summer as it relates to perhaps things coming out of the garden? How about that?
One of the farms that's near me that sells, they have all their early spring crops right now. And so I am getting reacquainted with radishes. And so I'm so used to just eating those with like dip and, like ranch dressing. So I'm going to be exploring how to do some maybe different things with radishes here in the future.
All right. And Caitlin, you mentioned farmers market season is here as well. What are you looking forward to in the farmers market season? And any tips for us as we make our way out, as those things start to become more popular with vegetables and fruits and all those things? How about that?
Yeah, definitely. We have a whole lesson devoted to kind of navigating your way through a farmer's market. So the big things generally are be aware of what kind of money they accept. A lot of places do cash only. You may have a few vendors that can accept credit, so you may need to stop by the bank on your way to your market to make sure you can have some cash available. And it's always a nice idea to kind of scope out each of the vendors first, so you can maybe do a little price shopping. So if you see jalapenos at one table and one jalapenos at another vendor, you can maybe do some price shopping. And there's always advantages to getting there early and getting there late. If you get there early, you get the best variety. But if you get there late, you might get some better prices because vendors don't want to pack all their stuff back up and take it home.
Sure.
You may be able to bargain a little bit.
Yeah. Caitlin, I don't mean to do this to you. I got to cut you off and let you go. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, U of I Extension, our guest. Network News is next.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM, W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM, W293 DJ Normal Bloomington.
Hour from townhall.com, I'm Jeremy House. Russian forces have focused their latest attacks in Ukraine and the east.